Parshas Terumah, Tov Shin Pei Vav. So what's happening interesting here tonight is that the Bikuch Olam volunteers are having volunteers night out, and of course we miss the volunteers very much, but Baruch Hashem, we have some diehards that still came here to listen to the shir live tonight, and we really very much appreciate it. And as you know, when we move to Parshas Terumah in the Torah, so we move on to a totally different subject than we've had for the last few months. As we went through the Avos, we went through the Shvatim, we went through Shibud Mitzrayim, Geulas Mitzrayim, Shiras Hayam, Matan Torah. Now we get to a new subject, the subject of the Mishkan. And the pasuk in our parsha says the tzivoy, the commandment that we have to build a Mishkan, v'yasu li mikdash v'shalchanti b'soicham. HaKadosh Baruch Hu says that you should make for me a mikdash, a place where I will dwell. So says HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Kaviyachol. And the Nesivos Shalom brings from the Sefer HaKadosh, told us Yaakov Yosef, he says a beautiful thought, and he says from the Alshich that it's something we need to understand about Taryag Mitzvahs. Taryag Mitzvahs, says the Alshich, are all considered to have been given as a part of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Every one of the 613 mitzvahs is a part of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And just as HaKadosh Baruch Hu is Nitzchi, Hashem is forever, for always, eternally, so too, says the Alshich, are each and every one of the Taryag mitzvahs. If they're part of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu is Nitzchi, then every one of the mitzvahs is also eternal. So having said that, says in the Nesivos Shalom, we have a beautiful question right at the beginning of our parsha. How do we reconcile that thought with this pasuk of v'yasu li mikdash? The pasuk in our parsha, the commandment to make a mishkan, to make a mikdash. How do we understand what kind of nitzchias, what kind of eternity could there be in that mitzvah? It would seem that it was only for that generation, the generation that built the Mishkan. They had a commandment. But if every one of the Taryag mitzvahs is eternal, what kind of mitzvah of building a Mishkan did they have, or do we have, going forward from the days that they built the Mishkan, or when they built the Beis HaMikdash? Where do we have this eternal mitzvah of building a Mishkan? And this question is really not just about the times after the Chorban. Unfortunately, we haven't had a Beis HaMikdash in almost just about 2,000 years. So then we understand the question that where we don't have a Beis HaMikdash, so what kind of mitzvah, what kind of commandment is there? Nesivos Shalom says, even while the Beis HaMikdash was standing, how would anyone be able to be Mekayim, the mitzvah of Yasu li Mikdash? It was there already. The Mishkan was built. The Beis HaMikdash was built. Where do you have a commandment to build a Mishkan or a Beis HaMikdash if it was already done? So once again, we have this question, where is the forever? Where is the eternity of this mitzvah? It would seem that this mitzvah, at least on the surface, is only for the door that built the Beis HaMikdash. Chazal tell us, Gemara Masechta Sanhedrin, Daf Tezayin Amud Beis, Chazal tell us on the pasuk of Kechol Asher Ani Mareh Oisecha, the end of that pasuk is V'chein Tasu. And this is the way you should do it. It would seem that these words either are a bit superfluous, or they're repeating themselves, but v'chein tasu, the way I showed you how to make the Mishkan, v'chein tasu, this is how it should be done. So Chazal tell us, what does v'chein tasu means? It means v'chein tasu l'doirois. So Rashi clears this up. Rashi explains that the way we should understand it is if one of the kalim of the Mishkan, of the Beis HaMikdash, are lost somehow. Somehow they got lost, or they got ruined, or they broke, something happened to the Kelim. So Rashi says, V'chein tasu l'doiros, that it has to be for all generations. The replacement for that Keli should be identical to the original. And that's what Rashi tells us. That's what V'chein tasu l'doiros is teaching us. So right away the Ramban points out, the Ramban actually asks on that, and we can't go deep into this Ramban or the explanation of the Ramban, but the Ramban, as a side point, the Ramban asks a question on that, is that we know that the Mizbeach that was built by Shlomo HaMelech actually had different dimensions. The Mizbeach that Shlomo HaMelech built, the Mizbeach of the Beis HaMikdash, was different than, if you learn through the Navi, you learn through Malachim, right, you'll see that the Mizbeach was different than the Mizbeach which was in the Torah, the Mizbeach that was in the Mishkan. So how do we understand, once again, V'chein tasu l'doiros? First of all, we have this tzivui v'yasu li-mikdash, where we have no idea how we're mekayim that if it's nitzchi. And V'chein tasu l'doiros, Shlomo HaMelech did something different. So how would we understand this l'doiros? So Nesivos Shalom, in his amazing, special way, says we have to understand this al derech ha'avodah. That's the way we could explain it. We're going to understand it in a bit of a different way. And Nesivos Shalom says that just from the very fact that the Torah takes up 5 parshias. We're starting this week, Terumah Tetzadik, Kisisa Vayakel and Pekudei, 5 parshias, which this year, when it's not a Shana Mubarak, when it's not a leap year, it's going to span over a month. We're going to talk about the Mishkan for 5 weeks, just by that very fact that we see the Torah takes up 5 parshias to elaborate on the building of the Mishkan and its Kalim. There must be some very important things to learn from it, especially since we know that this tzivui is forever, and we do not have a Beis HaMikdash today. There must be something very important to learn. So Nesivos Shalom goes back to the Toldos Yaakov Yosef that we started with at the beginning of the year, and he explains that the mitzvah of Yasuli Mikdash is really today referring to each and every person. Every person has to know, besides for the fact that they're unique and they're special, every person has to know that they are a small world of their own. Every person, your Dalet Amos, your house, your space, your family, your place is a special place. It's unique, that nobody else in the world could do what you're here for and what it is possible for you to do. And the mitzvah that you have and that every one of us has today is to make a mikdash l'Hashem, to make a mishkan, to make a place, a mikdash for yourself, the asuli mikdash, that every person has a tzivui today, especially when we do not have a Beis HaMikdash. The tzivui al derech ha'avodah, the way we can understand it is that you have to make within your space a place that the Shekhinah wants to be, and the Shekhinah will be proud to be. A place within yourself that the Shekhinah can reside. B'soicham, the pasuk says, "Shochanti b'soicham," which means, as Chazal tell us, b'soich kol echad ve'echad. Within every person and around every person, it needs to be a place for the Shekhinah. We have to look out to keep our area clean, to keep our area in a holy presence. We have to keep our area a place that HaKadosh Baruch Hu will want to be. And the tachlis of the Bria, the tachlis of the world is that each person should be their own individual Beis HaMikdash. And that is pshat in, says in the Nesivos Shalom, that is pshat in B'chein Tasu L'Doiros. That this is what you should do for all generations, talking to us today, of course, in our generation. That is for all. That's a mitzvah that is for all times. So the question is, how does a person go about? Nesivos Shalom is always very practical, very uplifting, very positive. So you want to know, so you've been doing A, B, C, and D your entire life, and maybe you've gone off the path a little bit, you've come back on, you have a plan to come back on, wherever you may be holding in your life. The question is, how does every person go about now creating their own Beis HaMikdash? Look where I've been, look what I've done. I should become a Beis HaMikdash, I should become a place of holiness. The answer says in the Nesivos Shalom is, V'yitchu li truma me'eis kol ish asher yidvenu li boy. That's the key. Every person has to know, tzaddikim say on this pasuk, that the truma you should give to Hashem is that which your heart desires, that which you desire most, that which you have a feeling for. That is what you as an individual should be giving to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And understand that every person has their things which their heart is being pulled to. Every person has their things that they know what their challenges are. You know what you face, and what the Torah is telling us, Me'ez kol ish asher yidvenu li boy, is every person to give in a small way, to start off in a small way. You have a struggle with this, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, I'm going to work on that. It's hard for me to get up to be there for the entire davening. I'm going to work on that a little bit now. It's hard for me to make a seder, to learn those extra 5 minutes. It's hard for me to keep my mouth shut and not talk lashon hara when I'm in this or that situation. Hashem, I'm going to work on that, because that is my challenge, and that is what Hashem wants to see you work on. And it's with that, dafka with those things, that you build your Beis HaMikdash. Now, every person in this world has their own tafkid. Every person has a tafkid that sometimes from time to time, different stages of your life, it changes from time to time. And sometimes every year, every month, every week, different challenges, different things that change from time to time. And with each time you work on what is your challenge right now, you're putting another brick or another one of the krushim, another one of the things. You're building a Beis HaMikdash. You are building a Mishkan. And that's the tzivui of building a Mishkan, the Asuli Mikdash. That's the Nitzchias. That's the tzivui of a Beis HaMikdash today. And that mitzvah is Nitzchias. As we say, as HaKadosh Baruch Hu said, as we said about HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is Nitzchias, and all the Tayag mitzvahs are Nitzchias, yes, this mitzvah also, the Asuli Mikdash, you could leave the shir tonight when you hear the shir and think of one small thing that you're challenged with, a little more emunah, bitachon, whatever it is, a little bit, whatever you're challenged with, and you're putting a brick into your Mishkan, into your Beis HaMikdash. You're making your being, your place, somewhere where V'shachanti b'soicham, where HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to be proud and happy to be part of. So for each person individually, and that's where we always talk about, that people sometimes, you think if I'm doing this, then the other person must certainly have to do this. Or why isn't my neighbor doing this? Why isn't my friend doing this? Because he's building his own Beis HaMikdash. It has nothing to do with yours. And if you try to be like that other person, you're missing the boat, you're missing the target. You're doing something which is totally not relevant for you. So everybody's going to go out this week and understand that Mir Hashem, one day soon, we're going to have the Beis HaMikdash back in Yerushalayim. We have a special guest here tonight also from Yerushalayim. We should be able to, all of us, go back and to join in the real building of Beis HaMikdash in Yerushalayim. But certainly until then, every person could build their own Beis HaMikdash, and the lessons of the Mishkan that are applicable, that are for us, begin this week.